Ladies and gentlemen, we are live for another edition of NASCAR Chase for the Cup 2005 on the channel. Nextel Cup Series racing for race number 17 of 36 on our custom schedule season. We head to the Texas Motor Speedway today for the running of the Texas 500K in the infield at Texas, as we will run the Texas road course. So not the oval, but the road course. Another fantasy road course on the schedule coming into this one. We still have a few more of those fantasy road courses left before the end of the season. This is another wild card round, another wild card race, and the steps to crowning a champion on this season. Like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content as we get into tonight's live stream. This is going to be a pretty fun one today. No clue how this is going to play out. Our driver Greg Biffle comes in with just a 7-point lead over Dale Earnhardt Jr., his narrowest points lead since first taking the lead, winning the season opener at the beginning of the year. Will be Dale Jr.'s time to shine and take his first points lead of the season. Greg Biffle has not exited a race without the points lead yet this year. This could be the first one today, and we will be right around the halfway mark at the end of this race as well, as far as the season itself goes. Starting 26 tonight is Greg Biffle, so he's going to have his work cut out for him. Not great in qualifying. Changed a lot of the setups around from qualifying to the race, but have not been able to practice with that setup. We'll have to see if we'll have to make any adjustments going through the course of the race today, and hopefully they hit the setup right for the start of the race, because again, qualifying, it just was not there. It was way too loose, and so they tried to add as much downforce as they could with the fender flare of the spoiler, trying to raise it up just a little bit, raising the back of the car up off the ground, or lowering, I guess, a little bit as well, and a bunch of other tedious things, dropping the air pressure, dropping the wedge. It's just a crazy set of adjustments that I had to try and throw everything at it, because Greg Biffle has struggled here as of late, and there's a chance he may lose the points lead today if he's not on his best behavior. Billy Kramer, Mark DeMars, Santiago Kid, and Mike Breeze FN, welcome to the stream, guys. First one's in the chat below. Let's get this race underway. I accidentally almost started the race a couple minutes ago, so that's why I'm on the pause screen right now. But we are going to get ready in the Texas 500K today. The green flag is in the air, and we will go green. Tony Stewart will be on the pole following his third win of the season a couple races ago at Sonoma. And we're going to see what's going to happen here. Greg Biffle spinning the tires off the start. He's already going to lose multiple positions on the opening lap of the race. Lonnie McKinney nearly turns him off of turn 2. And all the way down to the inside goes Biffle, right into Jeff Burton, his teammate, as he got pinched off. It all started when Lonnie McKinney had ran into the back bumper of Greg Biffle. Biffle just trying to find a nice steady pace here, find himself in line. Somehow out of all that, he actually gained one position from where he qualified. McKinney qualified in the 28th position right behind Greg Biffle on that outside lane. And in turns 1 and 2, he wasted no time trying to turn him. And unfortunately for Biffle, he got into his teammate Jeff Burton as well. Driving it in extremely deep down to the inside, getting pinched 3 wide. Jamie McMurray, Greg Biffle, and Jeff Gordon were in that mess. My goodness, there's a lot of contact already in these first 2 laps. The 144 car getting slammed by the 16 of Biffle as well. And all that contact has been with the left side of Biffle's car. He's going to have to be careful. Mostly right-handed turns around this racetrack. Gains one more spot that last lap. Rusty Wallace will get to the lead, leading his first lap of the day after Tony Stewart was able to lead lap 1. 144 making the pass on McMurray. Biffle down to the inside, shoots the gap into the back of Jeff Gordon. Makes the pass. Hard to settle yourself in when most of the field is still 2x2, especially in front of the Biff. Side by side in front of him. Almost gets into Jeff Gordon and a lift. Right around 40 seconds to get around this racetrack, give or take today. Biffle coming in hot into the back of Jeff Gordon. Again, he makes contact with the 24. It's back-to-back laps now. Turn 3 is where he struggled in qualifying. He had to lock the tires up a couple times on the 2 laps he ran just to keep it off of the wall on the outside. He's having a problem running into cars in turn 3 already in this race through the first 4 laps. Michael Turner, welcome to the stream. Oh, almost turned the 32 of Craven. You really see this car still on the loose side. Now there's some stacking up in front of Greg Biffle that time. Sterling Marlin and Paul Menard making contact. Menard drives to the inside of Jeff Gordon into turn 4. Biffle going a bit wide. Car underneath him in the 144. Biffle will pull a bad block on him. Nearly turning himself again. One car in the wall behind him. I think that was Elliott Sadler in the 38. Allowing Jeff Burton to make a pass for position. Biffle going to the outside just to miss the 144 car that time. Turn 3, that treacherous corner. Biffle slides the tires into turn 4 as well, getting back into the gas maybe a little too quick. Recommend tightening the car. I bet I did all I could to try and help tighten the race car. The sad part is there's not too many adjustments you can make throughout the course of the race to try and tighten it up. It is crazy how loose it is still. Really, the only thing he's going to be able to do is make any sort of wedge or tire pressure adjustment. And the 144 drives it in deep into turn 3, trying to move Ricky Craven up out of the groove. Biffle makes the pass on the 144. Craven might have checked up right in front of him. Biffle to the outside of Craven for position. And try to give Ricky Craven a little bit of room so that way Biffle doesn't crowd right into him. And a pass on the outside for Greg Biffle in those finishing corners on the 32 of Ricky Craven. Sterling Marlin now to the inside of Paul Menard. Biffle's going to follow him. Checking up early. Really doesn't want to run into the back of Marlin if he could help it. Down on the inside lane. Did a great job getting underneath of Marlin without getting into him that time. But because he failed to pass him, Menard's going to try a crossover. He gets into the side of Biffle. Biffle seemed to hold his lane pretty well that time. Biffle back to the inside of Marlin again. Onto the front stretch. Loose as fast as long as you can hold it. That is very true, Michael. I think I'll get the hang of it once I get a longer run. I didn't practice. I only qualified. If I had more practice laps, I think I probably would have been a little bit better with the previous setup. This setup is definitely better, but it's still loose. It's not as loose as what it was in qualifying, which is why Biffle's making some passes for position right now. Might have to let the 172 car right back by him again. On the outside. The balance on the road courses is the toughest thing. He tried to set it up more for the right-handed turns than left-handed turns. There's only 2 left-handed turns on this entire road course. The other 6 are right-handers. That's not even including the front stretch, which is all right-handers as well in that quad oval. Almost gets into the back of Kevin Harvick. What a dive bomb. And again, he gets into Gordon for about the 3rd time already in the race. Perhaps looking to make a pass. And Jeff Gordon down towards the apron. Taking a little bit of a shortcut. Kurt Busch gets loose, and he had to check up in front of Gordon, and that'll allow his teammate Biffle to get by him. Easily makes the clearance on Gordon as well. But the 122 and the 22 now in front of Biffle, as Biffle's up to 15th place on lap 11. Contact with the 122 into the back of Wimmer, and that stacked Biffle up. I think if the cars in front of him didn't make contact, Biffle would not have gotten into the back of the 122 as he got sandwiched in an accordion effect. It worked as a bump and run, though, for Biffle, and now Biffle to the inside of Scott Wimmer. So the car definitely has some speed to it. as he battles Wimmer on the front stretch. Advantage on the bottom lane into turns 1 and 2. Oval 3 and 4. Biffle closes the gap on his teammate Matt Kenseth for 12th place. Mark Martin just inside the top 10 for Roush as well. Big move for Biffle to the inside in turn 5, now to the outside in 6. Kenseth looking to cross Newman over. 3 wide on the front stretch. Look at Matt Kenseth squeezing up the middle, almost making contact with his teammate Greg Biffle. I'm surprised they were able to go 3 wide without any contact there. They are still side by side. Biffle trying to clear Ryan Newman and pulls up in front of him right before they get into the braking zone in turn 3. And the 3 Roush cars of Martin, Kenseth, and Biffle run single file into the infield portion of the racetrack. Biffle drives underneath of Kenseth. Little crossover move now. Underneath him in another corner. Feathering the throttle. Oh, he gets into him. Contact getting the 2 cars a little loose. Mark Martin got out of shape all by himself. So Kenseth stuck on the outside. Even with the contact, that allowed Biffle to make the pass on both of his teammates that time. Oh, skidded the tires quite a bit that time. Biffle's going to go wide, and he's going to give a spot right back up to Matt Kenseth again, potentially. But Biffle will actually beat him back to the gas through turns 4 and 5, so never mind. 12 people watching. Already 8 likes on the stream. Appreciate you guys hitting that like button down below. Our goal is 30 likes on tonight's stream. Only on lap 15. We already have 8 of them. 14 now watching. So thanks for everybody tuning in on this Monday night. NASCAR 2005 Chase for the Cup edition. We have a full race live stream on the channel. Road course at the Texas Motor Speedway. Rusty Wallace has led all but the opening lap of the race, which was led by pole sitter Tony Stewart. Stewart's won 2 of the last 3 races coming into this one, including the last road course we were on at the Infineon Raceway 3 races ago. And he also won the Pepsi 400 at Daytona in the last race. That was his second win at the Daytona International Speedway this year. He won the Daytona 500 at the beginning of the year as well. Rudd hangs on in front of Biffle. Looks like Rudd's actually going to get to the outside of Robbie Gordon. Gordon, a really good road course racer. 2 career wins in the Cup Series on road courses. 1 at Watkins Glen and 1 at Infineon. So although Biffle has cracked the top 10, he's a little over 8 seconds off the race lead from Rusty Wallace. Rudd tried the outside that last lap. Now he'll get to the inside of Robbie Gordon this time. Greg Biffle also to the inside of Robbie Gordon. Gonna lock those tires up, trying to get the car to turn. And he will beat the 31 car into the corner, and he stays solidly in line behind Rudd. Rudd, another good road course racer with multiple wins in the Cup Series on road courses as well. More so back in the 80s and 90s. Biffle's looking on him, though. He has a run. I would say he's in prime position to try and make a pass in turn 3. Carries the momentum to the outside. Good move by Greg Biffle. Can he hold it now? A little bit of a power slide, trying to beat Rudd back to the throttle into 5 and 6, and he is clear. Nice clean pass. It was almost like turn 3 was a setup corner that time around instead of the passing corner for Greg Biffle, but either way it works out. So as the traffic is not as tightly condensed together as what it was those first handful of laps in this race, Biffle's becoming a little bit more comfortable with the race car. We'll see as the tires begin to wear how that will work out. And obviously, it's the first race ever on the channel at the Texas Road Course, so we are unaware exactly how far we could go on fuel and tires in today's race. There is no rough guesstimate whatsoever. So I have zero clue or input as to how far these guys are going to go, if it's a potential fuel mileage race or not. We'll just have to wait and see until after these drivers make their first stop of the day. We'll make the judgment off of that. .9 seconds off the race lead. I think he was gaining on Jimmy Johnson in the infield portion of the track, but then as they got back onto the front stretch and then into turns 1 and 2, Johnson pulled away a bit. Biffle locking up those tires again into turn 3. Closes back in on Johnson. So it does seem like Biffle's better in the infield portion of the track than most of the drivers he has passed or is closing in on right now. But it is the actual oval portion of the racetrack where he tends to lack in the speed department. That's probably more reliant on the engine side of things, on the high-speed portion of this racetrack. But you can see the speeds inclining in through turns 1 and 2, upwards of about 160 plus miles an hour before they have to brake into that hard and heavy turn 3, which is almost 90 degrees, down below 80 miles an hour to make that corner. So in the mid 70 mile per hour range, you gotta drop it literally 90 degrees, or sorry, 90 miles per hour to make that 90 degree corner in turn 3. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some cautions in that area of the racetrack tonight. That and then the narrow exit to turn 6 back onto the front stretch may cause some accidents tonight as well. So if we do see any cautions in this race, I'd have to assume that those are the 2 areas of the track we'll probably see them. Oh, Biffle gets into the wall a little bit as he slides off the exit of turn 2. Cost him a little time to Jimmy Johnson that lap. And he's right back to about 7+ seconds off the race lead. Yeah, most road courses, by the way, Santiago Kid, would be left and right or mixtures of left and rights, but this one is primarily right-handed turns. This is also a fantasy road course. This is not a real road course. Maybe there's other motorsports that have raced a Texas road course race before. Maybe it's possible. I really have no clue if that has actually been done before or not. I know NASCAR definitely hasn't. .226 laps is a long time around a road course. One thing I will give a credit is the fact that about a 40 flat is Biffle's fastest lap time of the race. Pulls him back in on Johnson. He's within drafting range of him now, so maybe during this higher speed portion of the track he could keep up with Jimmy. Into turn 3. It was a great corner that time for Biffle. Johnson may be held up by the rookie Casey Kane in front of him in 6th as well. Jimmy's been behind him for a little while. He's going to try a little bit of a higher lane in turn 6. It's going to allow Biffle to close in on him, and it actually lost a lot of ground that time. Jimmy got really loose in that transition from the flat up to the banking of the front stretch. And that really allowed Biffle to drive right behind him. Johnson leaving a little bit of the bottom lane open off of turn 2. Biffle is on the inside. He'll have the advantage into turn 3, and he'll make the pass on Johnson. A lot of the drivers on the top 10 in points are running in the top 10 in this race. Jimmy Johnson, one of the drivers who had an engine failure in the Pepsi 400 at Daytona. So he's looking for a good run tonight. Michael Waltrip's in the top 5 early on. He's had some good runs on road courses this year, believe it or not. Was never really a great road course racer in his NASCAR career, but for whatever reason, he's been running good on him this season. Biffle all over Kane. Just can't quite get underneath him yet. Biffle has a run. Can he get to that right rear corner panel enough to side draft Kane into oval 3 and 4, turns 1 and 2 on today's racetrack. Kane actually outbraked Biffle, but that's going to allow Biffle to win the race back to the throttle. Biffle trying to look to the inside, a power slide to get underneath Kane. He might have slid a little too much though, and Kane gets the power down quick enough. He pulls up in front of Biffle and nearly turned himself off the front bumper of the 16. Another slam off the exit of turn 6 back onto the oval, and Biffle will take it away from the rookie Kane. Welcome to the stream as well, Dark Crypto. Really wide in turn 3. Kane closes back in just a little bit. Jimmy Johnson has closed back in on Casey Kane as well after the contact between Biffle and Kane that last lap. I don't know why the crew chief said we're 7 seconds off the lead when it's like 5.6, but oh well. I guess Biffle's ran a lap time in the 39-second lap area. 39.951 is his fastest in the first 30 laps of today's race. Haven't gotten to the halfway mark on fuel yet. Derek Booth, welcome to the stream. A lot of road courses on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule now, and a lot of people are saying that they need to reconfigure Texas Motor Speedway. Maybe they should reconfigure Texas Motor Speedway to this style road course. The only problem is you already have a road course in the state of Texas now at COTA that is working really well in the 2 years they've ran there for NASCAR. So maybe that wouldn't be on the agenda anymore. I guess they missed their opportunity in 2017 to try and do something like that. Instead, I guess they ended up at the end of 2017 deciding to do that with Charlotte's second date rather than Texas's. Oh, contact with Waltrip. Moving him up out of the groove, but I think that actually hurt Biffle more than it hurt Waltrip. Michael stays in front of him. Still giving up a lot of bottom, but Biffle does not close that time. Into turn 3 they go. Big run on Waltrip. He's going to try the outside lane this time. A little undercut now down to the bottom. Back on the outside again. And now a lot wider entry into turn 6. Trying to arc the corner off. May get that corner exit. Waltrip wiggled just a little bit. I think that's going to open the door up on the inside. Oh, not quite. Oh, big move that time. Problem is, Biffle's going to be on the outside of Waltrip into turn 6. Biffle trying to hold the outside. He has to lift quite a bit. And again, Waltrip hangs on in this battle for 5th place. Michael Waltrip's still in the top 10 in points right now. Biffle just got into the wall right before entering turn 1. He's going to lose a lot of ground. Locks the tires up, and he almost got in the wall again. Man, you're having a lot of breaking news here, Derek, in the last 48 hours. Congrats. So there it is, halfway on fuel at lap 35. So our window tonight is going to be between 60 and 70 laps on fuel. And unlike the Texas road course, unlike the Talladega road course, here at the Texas road course, it's not caution after caution after caution the entire race. Well, Waltrip got really loose that time. That transition from the flat on the apron, I guess, of the oval on the front stretch towards the exit of the pit lane to the transition of the banking and whatever degree of banking they have on the front stretch at Texas is really causing a major issue for these drivers. Biffle locks it up, though, on the outside, and he might give that position back up to Waltrip again. No, not quite. Biffle's still able to hold on strong, and he remains in 5th place. Bobby Labonte in 4th in front of him. That's who he's going to try to run down next. Going to alternate through the different camera angles for the first time in the race today. Black Ace, welcome to the stream. Derek Booty. I think you meant to say Derek Booth. Might have been an autocorrect there, I don't know. I don't know what your search history is, but... Biffle got a little loose that time. Almost a wheel hop with the rear tires trying to break into turn 3. You know, I noticed this bad luck has come most recently with the subway paint scheme. I don't think Greg Biffle's won with the subway paint scheme yet this season. Now I'm thinking about it. And he's got the subway car again today on a new road course. Rusty Wallace is about to get into some pretty heavy lap traffic before long as well. Could allow Biffle to perhaps close, and even the rest of the leaders to close a little bit quicker on Wallace. William Albright, welcome to the stream. Are we running in reverse? Pretty much. We're also running through the infield at the Texas Motor Speedway today for the road course. Labonte getting loose now up off the exit of that final corner, and here comes Biffle to the inside on the front stretch, and he'll have the bottom lane into turns 1 and 2. The advantage to Biffle, trying to pass Labonte for 4th. Still there, according to the spotter. Biffle will have the advantage down low again, and he'll make the pass on Bobby Labonte with ease, clearing him up off the exit of the corner. Now eyes set on 2nd place points driver Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 3rd. Junior 7 points behind Greg Biffle in the standings coming into today's race. Remember, it's a season-long points format, and we'll have 19 races to go following the conclusion of this one today. That's how Biffle got really out of shape getting back up onto the oval. Labonte wasn't close enough, though, to be able to get back around him, but you can definitely tell Dale Jr. pulled away a little bit. Labonte trying to close on the braking zone in turn 3. Biffle back in the corner up a little bit more. You talking about your wife? I don't have a wife. You mean Derek's fiance? Yeah, that's who. I'm not married. That'd be news to me. As far as I know, I'm not married. Hard to tell if Biffle's actually closing in on Dale Jr. or not. Biffle's not qualified on the road courses very well at all this season. Again, he qualified 26th tonight. He's only got one pole on the season in general, and that was a couple races ago at Michigan. Oh, your wife's pregnant. Man, we got a lot of... Well, I guess you guys are already dads. What would you call that? A double dad? Father of 2 kids? The DD for short. Tony Stewart is still in second place. Rusty Wallace is dealing with lap traffic right now, and that interval between even first and fourth is down to about 2.6 seconds as they work their way back to the start-finish line this time by. Long race still to go in this one, about 181 laps remain. And it could potentially be a fuel mileage race today, considering that the fuel window is going to be between 60 and 70 laps for most of these drivers. I'd have to assume more towards 65 to 70 for Greg Biffle, but I'm widening the range out a little bit because we may see some drivers try to short pit right around lap 60. We'll have a better gauge of that again once we cycle through the first set of pit stops, assuming, of course, that we don't have a caution before that. We've had one caution-free cup race this year. It was in the Food City 500 at Bristol. Had your 7-month-old watching NASCAR Heat 4, Jimmy Johnson career mode chase for 8. Oh, that was NASCAR Heat 5, but yeah, thank you though. Getting the kid invested in NASCAR and my channel. Young age. I have a 6-year-old daughter named Emily. Oh, okay. Ooh. Locking the brakes up again. Tony Stewart's really struggling to get by that first lap car in front of him right now. Dale Jr.'s really closed the gap on him. Stewart finally going to get around him on the front stretch. And it looks like Dale Jr. will get around that lap car through turns 1 and 2. Contact between Dale Jr. and Tony Stewart. Jr. putting the bump and run on Smoke. And they are side by side for second place in this 105 car. The lap car is right in front of Greg Biffle, and Biffle can't get around him right now. Now's his time to try and get around him, though, because Tony Stewart and Dale Jr. are side by side, but Biffle has nowhere to go. On the front stretch, trying to side draft the right rear corner panel of the 105 car. Dale Jr. pulls clear of Tony Stewart. Biffle on the inside. Stewart with a crossover down into turn 3. A clean pass for Tony Stewart as he clears Dale Jr. right back for second place. Biffle into the back of Jr. Not going to work. Oh, another tag. That one might work. More contact. And the battle for the points lead on top of third place is going on at the front of the field right now. Rusty Wallace just got around another lap car. Biffle will pull up and block Dale Jr. Back down to the bottom to block as well. And as they head into turn 3... Oh, wow, what a move by Dale Jr. He is power braking on the outside lane. Couldn't do it. We'll slide off the exit of the corner for Biffle. And he gets into the back of Stewart. A lot of bumper tag going on right now. Lonnie McKinney, the 177, who already tried to turn Biffle earlier, is the next lap car in front of Stewart. And Biffle is closing in as well. Oh, McKinney gets loose. He's almost in the wall. Biffle. Biffle underneath him. Really hoping McKinney does not try to slam him or turn him in any sort of way. Biffle down on the inside. And look at this. A bump and run by Stewart to the inside of Wallace for the lead. I don't know if he's going to get there or not. He's going to go wide. Side by side still for the race lead. Into the finishing corner. Stewart on the bottom. Wallace on the inside. Biffle goes all the way down low. They're 3 wide for the lead. Off the final corner. Contact between Stewart and Biffle. And Biffle will take the lead at the start-finish line. 5 bonus points leading his first lap of the day. What a gutsy move by the 16. There was a little bit of contact in there, but luckily they were able to make it through mostly unscathed. And Stewart trying to power brake on the outside now into turn 3. Biffle hooks the curving on the inside and holds clear of Smoke. Stewart trying to win his 3rd race in the last 4 today. He led the opening lap from the pole. He's been in the top 2 all race. He's back to 2nd again. This time it's Wallace, though, back in 3rd. As we are getting very close to our first pit stop of the race. I didn't think we were going to see 3 wide for the lead on a long green flag run today, but I guess we were able to see that just over 50 laps in. Greg Biffle's definitely got a pretty good long run speed. Tony Stewart trying to charge to the outside, but the lap car was in the way, and he wasn't going to really have a good chance to make the move. Biffle just chopped off the 153 car. Almost turned himself, and it sounds like we have some leaders pitting this time by. Tony Stewart's down on the apron, so right after Stewart gets passed by Biffle before he starts to fall behind a little bit more, it looks like Stewart's going to try to short pit. Oh boy. Biffle's just sliding all over the place in turn 3 again, kind of like he was at the beginning of the race, but I think now it's more because of the old tires. Got some lap cars in front of Biffle pitting as well. Kyle Petty working his way down right now. Greg Biffle's going to take this opening run as long as he can. He really wants to know exactly how far he could go on fuel. It will allow him to lead laps with ease and not a lot of pressure behind with some of the cars behind him pitting. Problem is he's probably going to end up losing the lead by the time he ends up making his pit stop considering how long he is staying out. Scott Riggs pulling in as well. 70 miles per hour is the pit road speed limit at every track in this game. No different on the road courses, whether they're the fantasy tracks or the actual road courses on the schedule. Matt Kenseth working his way out of the pit lane. Oh, up onto the racetrack. He slid quite a bit into turn 3, and he got into the last car in the lead lap on the outside in the 171. I thought we were going to have an accident there. Favorite IndyCar driver, who would it be? I've always been a fan of Helio Castroneves. His personality's great. Like, that's a personality you would want in a sport. Very enthusiastic. Kind of like a happy-go-lucky figure, but it's kind of wild at the same time, too. But in a good way. You know, not like a... Like, he's had tempers in the past, but not like Kyle Busch-like tempers when he was younger. That would be more of a... not Tony Kanaan, more of a Paul Tracy kind of guy. Like, Paul Tracy is IndyCar's, or open wheels Kyle Busch. But no, yeah, I'd probably say Helio Castroneves. Jimmy Johnson, even though he just started. Well, yeah, okay, that's fair. I probably would say Jimmy too, but I was picking somebody that actually raced open wheel their whole career. I couldn't tell who it was, but the crew chief just stated that somebody was coming out of the pit lane, and they were going to be a little slow. So it sounds like somebody who has blown an engine in the early going of today's race has worked their way back up onto the racetrack. So we're going to have somebody off the pace, and I'm sure we'll find out who that is before long. About a nearly 5+ second lead and growing right now for Greg Biffle at lap 60, but that is because we are in the middle of green flag pit stops for those of you just tuning in. Jimmy Johnson coming out of the pits, he'll fall in line between the 171 and the 17. Another car that came out of the pits not too far in front of him as well. 171 car down on the bottom. He'll pull into the pit lane. Johnson on a little bit fresher tires than Kenseth, likely battling for position. They're side by side. Kenseth a little loose off the transition from the flat to the banking, and that may allow Johnson to clear before they get into turn 1. Kenseth going to side draft the left rear corner panel. They're still side by side right now. About 1/8 of a tank of fuel left for Biffle at lap 61. Kenseth did not get into the braking zone well at all. Biffle was coming in pretty hot on him, even though he didn't overrun the corner at all. Contact between the two teammates for the second time already today. Kenseth and Biffle. Full to the inside of Kenseth on the front stretch. Trying to put Matt a lap down. So it looks like 55 to 70 laps is the window for every driver in the field today. And that's actually the 177, not the 171. That's the lap car out in front of these guys. Now, he has already caused an issue with Greg Biffle today. He tried to turn him on the opening lap. They qualified right behind one another. Biffle qualified 26th, McKinney was 28th, and he tried to turn him in the first turn. Biffle didn't even realize he qualified behind him until he was trying to turn him in that opening lap, and luckily Biffle was able to save it. Probably as close as we've been to a caution so far today. It was on the very first lap of the race. Kenseth to the inside of him. I'm not sure if McKinney has pit yet. I think it may be safe for Biffle to just sit behind him. Kenseth is underneath McKinney right now. And he'll clear him at the start-finish line. Biffle's got a big run on McKinney. McKinney may try to cross over Matt Kenseth. He'll pull him down and blocking the 16 of Greg Biffle. Biffle going to back up turn 3. And, yep, McKinney to the inside of Kenseth once again, just trying to cross over the 17. And it looks like he got him, which is impressive if he is on older tires. I know Kenseth's on fresh tires. McKinney stays out of the pits again that time by. There are cars outside of Greg Biffle that have not made their stop yet, considering that there are still other cars on the lead lap. Greg Biffle to the inside of Matt Kenseth now, and Kenseth's in danger of going a lap down. McKinney up high, going to block Kenseth. Kenseth, it's a big run on the outside. He's all over the right rear of McKinney. We'll get to the inside in turn 3. Biffle to the inside of McKinney in turn 3 as well. Power slide up on the curbing. And he's just going to let McKinney go. He's not playing any games right now and really just wants to race clean and get to that first pit stop sometime soon. Biffle didn't have such a gigantic lead right now. He'd probably be a little more aggressive. Oh, well, never mind. That's one way to get around him. McKinney gets really loose up off that final corner, as we've seen so many drivers do today, including Biffle a couple times as well, and Biffle is able to get around him cleanly. So that'll work. So lock the tires up into turn 3. He's really trying to stay in front of McKinney now that he's in front of him. And he'll pull him just a little bit. Joshua Rumsey, welcome to the stream. And I think the slow car is on the outside lane holding up a lot of traffic right now, and I believe it's Terry Labonte in the 5. Oh, it's going to be 3 wide into turn 3. Kenseth up the middle. There wasn't enough room to do that. Trying to squeeze in between both Matt Kenseth, or Kenseth was the one that made the move, trying to squeeze between his teammate Greg Biffle and Michael Waltrip. Making a little bit of contact in turn 3. Drops Kenseth back. I think he's trying to get around Waltrip for position, as well as perhaps trying to get back on the lead lap as well. Lap 68 at the line. And Greg Biffle made pit this time by. He's been going quite a ways on fuel. So Biffle will pit at lap 68. Doesn't feel like risking another lap right now. Now he's got to get on pit road, because without any practice, and he only qualified, he is not able to make a practice pit stop yet. He's going to do that right now. 70 miles per hour is the pit road speed limit. And pretty easy going for Biffle this time. He was very patient getting into the pits. It'll be 4 tires and fuel, no adjustments for the 16 car. They have good long run speed, maybe a little off on the cold tires at the beginning of the run. But once he gets about 5 to 10 laps in, he feels very comfortable with his race car. And the Mr. Clean crew will go to work on the Subway Ford Taurus of Greg Biffle. Again, like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. Goal is 30 likes on the stream tonight. We're already at 11. We've had as many as about 15 people watching at one point in time. We are at lap 69. Nice. In the running of the Texas 500K. Greg Biffle trying to get up to speed on the inside of the racetrack. Tony Stewart will cycle off of pit road with the lead. No surprise, he was one of the first cars on pit road. So he'll cycle up ahead of Greg Biffle. Biffle working on lap car Kyle Petty as he's getting up to speed right now. About a 9/10 of a second difference between Biffle and Stewart. Biffle will be able to get around Kyle Petty. Back onto the front stretch, clearing him at the start-finish line at lap 70. Second different time Tony Stewart has led laps in today's race. Actually, I think that's just his second lap led total in the race today. He only led the first lap or drop it back to second. He's only been as far back as third for a very brief moment. But Biffle has pretty close to about 12, 13 lap fresher tires than Stewart. So he has ran him down from that 9/10 of a second deficit pretty quickly in about a lap and a half. And he is all over the back bumper of Stewart as they get back to the start-finish line this time by, I believe Stewart should lead the lap, but Biffle is looking for the lead. Big block by Stewart on the front stretch. Biffle looks low, dive bomb into turn 1. He is underneath Stewart. Stewart carrying the momentum off the high side and off the transition of the banking. Biffle going to try to back turn 3 up and beat Stewart back to the gas off the exit of the corner. He does. Stewart with a block, and he nearly turns himself into the infield. Infield grass. That was a major block in which he was not clear, and that almost costed Stewart the whole race. Battling like it's the last lap. On lap 70 is Stewart right now. Biffle again to the inside of Tony Stewart. Tony leads that lap as well. Side draft on the front stretch. Biffle is going to hang on that right rear corner panel of Stewart. Oh, contact that time. They got a little too close. Into turn 1. And Biffle will have the lead off of turn 2, and he'll try to block the bottom. Tony Stewart will make a charge high into turn 3. That's not going to work. It hasn't really worked for many drivers today. And Biffle will hold on to the lead. And we'll have an official lead change when they get back to the start-finish line, because I don't think Stewart's going to be able to get back around Biffle this time. A lot of lap traffic right now in front of Biffle. We'll see if Stewart can close back in. He's already about 7/10 of a second behind Biffle. Biff just got around him about a lap and a half ago. Casey Mears getting pretty loose back up onto the oval. Greg Biffle to his inside. Very slow lap car of Terry Labonte in the 5 is about to be caught again. At least he's staying wide in front of race leader Greg Biffle for the second time now. Well, contact. Somebody got into Labonte into turn 3. Might have been Jeff Green in the 43 car. So the 43 of Jeff Green or was the other Dodge and the 41 of Casey Mears. That trivia question will be at about the halfway mark, as Mark DeMar said down in the chat. I do have it tonight. I was off of work. I was able to look it up. Oop. Tucks to the back of the 0-1. A second and a half lead for Biffle. He is pulling away. He does, again, have a little bit fresher tires than Tony Stewart. They'll even out over time during this run, but between that, Biffle having a good long run car, he's in a very good spot right now, leading laps just over a quarter of the way through this race. Again, we are sitting at likely being a 3 pit stop race today. I don't think they can make it on 2 stops. Especially considering Biffle pit at lap 68. He's probably going to have to go about 72 to 73 laps to make it on just 2 stops. So it's a 3-stop race today for Greg Biffle. That's probably why a lot of drivers were short pitting as well, also knowing that it is 3 stops, maybe trying to split it evenly in 3. With it being a road course, you could probably get away with that a little bit better and risk not going a lap down unless you're quite a ways off the race lead. So at least for the drivers running probably inside the top 10 or 15, they should be able to stay on the lead lap. As we saw, I mean, Johnson was on the back half of the top 10. He was on the lead lap, even though he had made his stop. But as we get longer into a green flag run and we have more pit stops or multiple pit stops during one green flag run, it may be a little harder for those guys to stay on the lead lap of pitting if Biffle tries to pull away or will pull away a little bit more as time progresses on. Of course, the NASCAR Cup Series and the entire of the top 3 series in NASCAR were at Circuit of the Americas this week, a road course in Texas. So kind of fitting that we are running the Texas road course on our custom schedule season for NASCAR 05 tonight at the Texas Motor Speedway. I guess it's about as close as we get to COTA as far as the tracks on this game go. Raj Chastain will win the Cup Championship. Change my mind. It's a bold prediction. I gotta say, he's probably one of the favorites right now. I don't think Kyle Larson's the favorite like he probably was at the start of the year or even a couple races in. That was an unbelievable move for Biffle to get around Ricky Rudd really fast in turn 3. Rudd almost got back around Biffle on the outside in turn 4. Biffle blocks him last second and will hold him behind, and that was a good thing by Biffle because otherwise he would have been stuck on the outside through the next corner and probably onto the front stretch as well. 80 laps green flag to start this race so far. 61 miles an hour that time off the exit of turn 2 and down to about 64 miles an hour into turn 3. Unbelievable. That's about a 97 mile per hour differential in speed. From the fastest point of the track to the slowest point, all in a matter of seconds. It was a great race at COTA, I thought. Definitely a little sloppy at the end. I don't think we've had a perfect race in my opinion this year. We've had a lot of good and great races. I'd like to see there actually be a long green flag run at the end of one of these races with a couple drivers battling it out for the lead on old tires, hanging out for dear life, especially with these new cars on, say, an intermediate. That'd be fun to watch. We almost had that at Vegas if that caution didn't come out late. We were going to have that between Kyle Busch and Truex. It was setting up for it. We unfortunately just never got it. For locking up the tires in turn 3. We also got in the wall on entry into turn 1 a little too wide and lost about 3 to 4 tenths of a second of his lead. Almost time to get hard for Menard and stiff for the Biff as they are running pretty close to nose and tail right now. Paul Menard's the last car in the lead lap, and of course Greg Biffle's the race leader, so he's closing in, trying to put him a lap down in the next lap or two. Biffle's coming in hot into turn 3 to the outside of Paul Menard. Terry Labonte, the slow car, is down on the bottom though, and Biffle is stuck behind Labonte in the infield portion of the racetrack. Now we'll get to the inside of the 5 car and pass him in that finishing corner. Biffle drafted behind Menard. Through turn 3. That was a big undercut by Biffle. Will he make the pass? Crowning Menard. Menard going to side draft the right rear corner panel and try to keep Biffle on the outside. Tight racing. Biffle actually held on to the outside pretty well, getting back up onto the oval. Drivers have struggled with that most of the day. Oh, contact, big block. That was not clean at all by Biffle into turn 1. Just completely chopping off Paul Menard. Lock the brakes up, coming in a little hot into turn 3. Chain reaction of events over those couple of corners. Big wheel spin, and Biffle's wide in turn 4. And now they're 3 wide. Oh, jeez. I think they're lucky that they had gotten around Biffle cleanly that time. I don't know if they were going to make it 3 wide off the exit of turn 6. Mike Murphy trying to drive by Menard. He has just gotten his lap back all of a sudden. Greg Biffle drives to the inside of Menard. Tony Stewart's closing in as Biffle's struggling to pass the 33 of Menard and stay in front of him. Menard going up the track a little bit, trying to pinch Biffle again. Biffle on the outside, up off the curbing, and Menard got loose on the bottom. Did a great job keeping it off the 16 car up high. Biffle has finally cleared Menard. He'll try to dive bomb to the inside into turn 1 underneath Murphy. He's going to have to get around him here pretty quick. Into turn 3, a power slide by Biffle, and it'll clear Murphy. Had to do that with Stewart closing in. Now there's 2 lap cars between the top 2. And Biffle's already pulling Murphy. I think it was a little dirty. I mean, Chastain was definitely the most aggressive driver on the track yesterday. I will say, though, if you are going to be that aggressive, you better win the race. And I guess he did win the race. But that entire final stage, in particular, every restart, it seemed when AJ would get a good jump or Reddick would get a good jump that he kind of ran him pretty wide. I think it was with 12 laps to go. AJ had a little bit better restart on the outside lane than Chastain, and he had about a half a car length on him, and then Chastain ran him wide, and if AJ didn't get out of the gas, Ross was basically forcing him into the grass. So he had to lift and fall in line in second. Actually, I think on that restart, Reddick got to second, and then AJ had to get back around him for second place. And Chastain was way ahead, but then they had a caution like half a lap later. Big lock up on the front tires. Skirts the rear tires, getting back into the gas in turn 3 as well. Bill's got to be burning those tires up a little bit more this run than what he was in the first run of the race. We're only 22 laps in, but he's been locking the tires up a lot these last few laps. It's kind of a desperation mode type of situation. A bit of a run in the draft. We're riding behind the 0 of Ward Burton. Wyatt Hanson, welcome to the stream. Your car's getting loose. Yeah, it's been a little on the edgier side. I will say it was a lot better on the last run. It seems like it gets better gradually on the long run. We're drafting off of Burton. Biffle charging on the outside. Winding out the corner, really trying to find a way to set up the 0 of Ward Burton to make the pass. Biffle has 2 road course wins this season, but it was in the first 2 road course races of the year. He has finished outside the top 10 in 3 of the last 4 road course races, excluding the New York City street course race where he finished 3rd. Coming up on Terry Labonte in the 5 car. Ward Burton still down low. Biffle on the outside trying to clear Burton before they get off the exit of turn 2, and he does. And that is going to give Biffle plenty of room to get by the 5 of Labonte. But Burton charges back down to the inside again. Biffle's able to win the race back to the throttle, and he'll stay in front of Burton. Tony Stewart held up behind Labonte, it looked like a little bit, and leads back over a second and a half into turn 6. His finishing corner. The Richmond is a short track, and with all the late restarts we've had in literally every race this year, the longest green flag run to the end of a cup race in the first 6 races this season has been 13 laps at Atlanta. In the other races, we had 6 or less laps left when they went green on the final restart of the race. And 3 times we've already had overtime finishes. Biffle on the inside of another lapper, pulling up, clear. 144 got into the wall, but that was all on his own. Biffle never made contact with him. Sometimes it's better just to go a lap down. In the case of the 144 that time, probably would have been better if he just would have went a lap down. 172 car is trying to battle Greg Biffle in the 16 as well. Oh, and he slams into Biffle, and Biffle's down into the infield grass to save his race car on the front stretch. And all that momentum loss is going to give Tony Stewart the lead from about a second and a half back. It's Jason Kennedy who got sideways underneath Biffle. And Biffle loses the lead because of a lap car. Out of seemingly nowhere, he had a comfortable second and a half lead over Stewart. Kennedy again on the inside of Biffle. We'll see if he can hold it this time. I wonder if he got loose off the transition of that banking. That's what costed him. Oh man, he threw a big block on Biffle that time, and Biffle's just going to let him in into turn 1 and try to get down to the inside. Third different time now. Tony Stewart leads at Texas. Closing in on lap 100. I mean, Elliott has been consistent. He's the points leader for a reason. He just hasn't won yet. Kind of similar to Denny Hamlin most of the year last year, where he just couldn't get into victory lane, but he was super consistent. This year, his rules reverse. Denny Hamlin has not been good at all. He's been consistently bad, if anything. He's got no top 10s in 6 races. That's insane. Spun out earlier this weekend, got put back in traffic, and even though he spun out, if it wasn't for him staying out to get stage points, he wasn't really in the top 10 at all during the day as well. I guess he was on a couple restarts. He was really good on the restarts that he didn't spin. But then he would just fade back on the long run. Like, I remember the very start of the race, he got up to 4th or 5th and fell back to 12th by the end of stage 1 before everybody started to pit. He just didn't have a good long run car. Tony Stewart on the outside. Greg Biffle was able to work down to the bottom, so they are side by side for the race lead. Contact between Stewart and Biffle has the lead. Lap 100, we'll alternate through the different camera angles for about another 8 laps once again. As it's Biffle who leads Stewart. Oh, Tony Stewart, what a move to the inside in turn 3. He's not there anymore, though, and Biffle's clear. Stewart's trying to run some really good laps to make sure Biffle's not going to pull him like he did last time. Wonder where Dale Jr.'s running. Last we saw of him, he was in 4th place. Biffle leading right now. He has not led a lap at all today, so no bonus points for Dale Earnhardt Jr. That's good for Greg Biffle, who again came in with just a 7-point lead. Biffle so far has been wire to wire with the season points lead. He's led in the championship standings after every race. All started when he won the first race of the year at the Daytona Road Course. Still 2 more pit stops though left in today's race. Terry Labonte in the 5 car in the infield portion of the racetrack is going to check up the 122. Greg Biffle to the outside of Labonte. Should be able to make a nice clean pass on him, and he's clear back down to the bottom. And now we'll see how much Labonte's going to hold up Stewart, because he did not hold up Greg Biffle at all. Biffle got around him on the outside in that finishing corner pretty well. Stewart is held up, and it looks like that will expand Greg Biffle's lead back out to about 1.4 seconds. And about halfway on fuel right now for Greg Biffle during the second fuel run of the race. Still the first green flag run as we are caution free. I think Hamlin will win, and it'll be Martinsville. He is good there. He came close to winning there in the fall last year. Nice trivia question going to be coming up in about 10 laps or so. Right at about the halfway mark. Like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content, full race live streams with a realistic commentary, whether it's the real races on the weekend like we had yesterday with the Cup Series race at COTA, or the races during the week on the video game side of things like today, all in the hopes of hopefully getting into the commentating booth down the road for real NASCAR races. Appreciate your support as always. A lot of new subscribers from yesterday. Again, over a couple hundred people watching yesterday's stream. I think we were up in the 280 mark yesterday's race. About the same amount that we had the race commentary before that at Phoenix. Had a stream record of over 300 people watching. Or it wasn't over 4. I think it was over 400 people watching at the Las Vegas race. We had over 300 for Talladega last year in the fall. Not going to be commentating any of the real racing action at Richmond this weekend, but I will be commentating twice for Martinsville. I'll be commentating the Xfinity and the Cup race. It's a little doubleheader on the channel that weekend as far as real race commentary goes. For the first time this year, I'll be doing multiple races on the same weekend. It's going to be a long weekend for me, but without any racing going on Sunday, I'll be able to sleep in and not have to worry about doing anything for the channel. At least early Sunday. We'll probably stream video game stuff Sunday night, but maybe in the afternoon. We'll see how that works out, but that's in a couple weeks yet. Could join Jamie Little on pit road. I could. Most of the commentators that get into the booth start on pit road. The only one I could think of that really didn't was Rick Allen. He just kind of started in the booth for the truck and ARCA races back on Speed Channel in the mid-2000s. But usually, even Mike Joy was on pit road before he was in the booth in the 80s, early 90s. Did that for about 10 years before he got up into the booth. Those guys are usually older by the time they get in the booth, too. I think Rick Allen was right around 40. Mike Joy would have been right around 40 when he started commentating in the booth. I don't know how old Adam Alexander is, but I think when he was with TNT in the booth, he was probably in his mid-30s, right around 40 years old, too, if I had to guess. They don't usually put a lot of young guys in there to start off. So I definitely have a lot of time on my hands. I'm only 22, so got a long road ahead of me. I'd like to also appreciate anybody that sent out a super chat yesterday. Definitely the most I've received in one stream on the channel. Appreciate the support, even if you're just watching and don't leave super chats, but I wanted to shout out those people that did leave super chats yesterday, mainly because it was the most I've received in one stream before, collectively, so that was awesome. Definitely took me by surprise, that's for sure. Dr. Jerry Punch on pit road. Yeah, Dr. Jerry Punch was on pit road. Even Adam Alexander was on pit road briefly with TNT before he did the commentary, because Bill Weber, the first year or two when NASCAR had the summer series on TNT, was doing the broadcasting there, transition from NBC to there. Adam Alexander was a pit reporter for MRN before he was on NBC's play-by-play. So it seems like we have some green flag pit stops going on right now. Greg Biffle trying to get the first win for Subway on the race car this season. At least for the primary sponsor. We're 2 laps away from halfway. Ricky Smith is kind of funny. Yeah, it's strange seeing a driver turn pit road analyst. I don't know if that's ever been done before. Usually a driver can get up into the booth, but Ricky Smith only has 1 career cup win, so that probably has a lot to do with it. So I guess we'll put him on pit road. Oh, caution for the first time today, lap 112. Looks like it was in the infield portion of the racetrack, but we'll take a look. So right at about the halfway mark, we get our first caution of the race. And we have a spin in turn 4. One of the fantasy-generated rookie drivers has backed it into the outside wall. So I would have to assume that everybody who didn't already pit is going to pit right now. And I wonder, there were only a few drivers that pitted that last lap to start green flag pit stops. And they might end up actually cycling out in the lead. So perfectly timed caution for them, and I think Tony Stewart was one of the drivers that pit. I don't believe he is a lap down. He was close enough behind the leader, he shouldn't have been a lap down. No adjustments, it'll be 4 tires and fuel for Greg Biffle and the Mr. Clean crew, and they will go to work. A backward style pit stop today with having to serve the left side of the car before the right side. Gas can on the right side as well, so kind of backwards compared to the ovals on the schedule. Yeah, I guess Steve Burns was in the booth for the truck races. I kind of forgot he was. So the lap cars will be on the inside of the lead lap cars. Tony Stewart will be the leader. He was on pit road when the caution came out, as he was the first one in the pits. And then Dale Jr. won the race out of the pits, but Stewart was the only car in the lead lap that had actually pitted right when the caution came out. So kudos for him. He is in the lead. And we have another car coming out of the pit lane right now as well. That's going to be very slow coming to the restart. Biffle is stuck on the outside, and he's squeezed into the wall by his teammate Jeff Burton. There is nowhere to go. They're still 3 wide. And they're still 3 wide. Almost the entire lap. Biffle had nowhere to go. He just got squeezed. They got underneath him in that 3-wide manner. Rusty Walls gets sideways, and that pinches Biffle into the wall. There's another car up in the wall further up ahead, and I think it was Bobby Labonte. Biffle's still in 4th after all that. Tony Stewart's going to pull away a little bit. Big stack up on the outside lane, down onto the bottom. Biffle gets on the brakes in time before getting into the back of Mike Murphy, luckily. On the outside of a bunch of cars. Down onto the curb. Biffle to the inside. It's going to be 3 wide up off the oval, contact with Murphy. Somehow Jeff Green got through that unscathed. Yeah, Hermie Sadler. I guess Hermie Sadler would have been similar to how Regan Smith is viewed. Regan Smith had a better career, though, than Hermie. I believe there are 2 slow cars on the racetrack now, because there's somebody that was on pit road on the restart, and of course Terry Labonte is slow. So potentially 2 drivers now have had issues. Biffle clip in the grass. Undercutting the corner, got him a little sideways. He's going to lose ground to Labonte and Murphy in front of him. Murphy a lap down, Labonte on the lead lap. Murphy gets by Labonte. Biffle into the back. Oh, Labonte hard into the outside wall. He gets slammed. And Jeff Drain also slammed into the back of Greg Biffle. That was a hard hit for Bobby Labonte. I believe the car's still running. Biffle was coming in hot. He couldn't get the car slowed up, and a nasty hit into the right rear corner panel for Bobby Labonte in the outside wall in turn 3. And then Jeff Green hit the 16 of Greg Biffle pretty hard as well, putting him in the accident. And Biffle's going to have to come to pit road to repair the damage to the rear of the race car. So he's going to lose all that track position. So back-to-back cautions right about the midway point today. Mr. Clean Crew is going to be repairing some damage. Almost 5 seconds worth on that 16 Ford. The AMA Tech Squad. Amy, welcome to the stream. And Greg Biffle is going to be towards the tail end of the field now in 20th. That's all the cars that were on the lead lap. He transferred lanes too quickly, got out of the gas and let everybody go in front of him. His green flag is back in the air. So Greg Biffle going to have to try and make his way back through the field with just over 100 laps to go. Big stack up, 3 wide into turn 3. Biffle able to get at least a couple spots back up to 19th. Still stacking up in front of him. Contact with Scott Wimmer. He's on the outside of Wimmer into that finishing corner. I believe Wimmer's on the lead lap. He might not be. We'll see. And they'll make it the first lap this time by. But we'll see if they make it the second lap after the restart. Wimmer's really squeezing Biffle, trying to side draft the heck out of him that front stretch. Biffle checking up on the outside. Trying to get the car to slow up, and he kind of tagged the wall with the left rear corner panel. Still underneath of Elliott Sadler. Michael Waltrip down on the inside of him. In a battle for 16th between Waltrip and Biffle. Waltrip's really falling back quite a bit. Oh, this is not, yeah, that was not going to work. Biffle did not want to go up the middle 3 wide. And a little loose, but with doing that, he's able to get back down to the bottom in line behind Waltrip instead. One car blowing up on the inside of the racetrack. That's Kevin Harvick. Another tough break for Harvick this season. Is that 3 straight races he's blown an engine? Because I believe it is. Oh, Biffle overdrove turn 3 into the inside wall. That didn't help. Harvick having to limp his car all the way back around to pit road. But I believe that is the third straight race that Kevin Harvick has blown an engine. Biffle gets back down in line on the inside between both Michael Waltrip and Paul Menard. Crosses Waltrip over for position. He may get underneath his teammate Mark Martin as well. Big loose moment in the front stretch for Biffle. Slamming right into Scott Riggs, Ryan Newman. Biffle's looking like a little bit of a wrecking ball out there all of a sudden. 100 laps to go at Texas this time by. Road course racing today. Contact between Newman and Biffle. Biffle barely keeps it off the wall. Pass was for position, and meanwhile at the front of the field, Dale Earnhardt Jr. has taken his first lead of the day with 100 laps to go. 5 bonus points for Dale Jr. as he's trying to come out of this race with his first points lead of the season on Greg Biffle. Biffle back in traffic right now after being involved in that second caution. He's on the comeback trail right now. Really loose. Hangs on to 10th. Harvick becoming Elliott Sadler this season. Last season it was Elliott Sadler with the engine failures. This year it's Harvick. 3 in a row for Kevin. Just been so close to winning races this season too. This one he wasn't really in the top 10 for the most part, but still stinks that he blows another engine. Costing Richard Childress a lot of money this year. Biffle on the outside of Dale Jarrett. Jarrett got a good run. He'll get to the outside of Jimmy Johnson in the next corner. Up off the oval. Oh, bit of a stack up. Biffle got into the back of Jarrett on the front stretch. An absolute madhouse. Since that first caution came out about 17 laps ago, Biffle pile drives it right into Dale Jarrett now. More contact with Jarrett. Into turn 3, big run for Biffle. Just gets underneath Brendan Gaughan. Contact. By the way, the leaders are going to be catching those 2 slow cars probably within the next lap or so. Probably going to have a lot of checking up in the pack. Biffle looks underneath Jimmy Johnson into turn 1. As they battle it out for 8th place, side by side. Kurt Busch gets by Jeff Green into turn 3, gonna outbrake him. Look at Biffle coming in on Green, side by side with the 43 car. Oh, contact. Green did not give Biffle any room there. As they work their way onto the front stretch, Biffle to the inside of Green. Jeff is a lap down. As we now have 95 laps to go in the Texas road course. I think Dale Jr. got by those 2 lap cars pretty well. Biffle's like 5.5 seconds off the lead. There's a lot of laps left on a road course. I think the 0 car, Ward Burt, might be one of the slow lappers. I'm not entirely sure if that is the case or not. There's Terry Labonte, definitely right in front of Rusty Wallace. Wallace will get around him on the front stretch. Biffle to the inside of Jeff Gordon and Kurt Busch, making the passes on both of them. Gets around the lap car of Ward Burton, who is not the other slow car. The other slow car is still ahead off the exit of turn 2. And it looks like it may be Casey Kane in the 9. Wallace tried to get to the inside. He didn't see Biffle there. He sideswipes him. And Wallace loses a spot. Biffle's back inside the top 5. Peter Conover, welcome to the stream. Biffle to the inside of Murphy. Picking Blaney at Richmond this week. Blaney's having a pretty underratedly good season. There were only 2 races where he finished outside the top 10. And both of them were races he ran in the top 10 the whole race and just didn't finish there because of the pit crew. Auto Club and got in the wall in the last lap at Atlanta. That one wasn't so much the pit crew, but Auto Club was definitely on the pit crew. Biffle making contact with Murphy. Into turn 1, Murphy a lap down. Dale Jr. is really pulling away right now. First time we've seen Dale Jr. with any sort of clean air in this one as well. I think Greg Biffle's going to plan on short pitting. Not this time by, but the following time by. They're not in the window to make it to the end. We got another car blowing up on the inside of the racetrack. I'm not sure who this one is. And Tony Stewart. Wow, what a tough break. And we do have cars hitting pit road, it sounds like, this time as well. So Biffle would not be the only one short pitting. By pitting this next time by, we'll have 90 laps to go this time by. What a tough break for Tony Stewart, blowing an engine. He was in 2nd place in this race. That's another spot for Biffle. Biffle charges hard underneath Kenseth. He's on the outside of him. He's going to have to get down to the bottom, though, because he wants to pit this time. Kenseth is still there. Biffle's got to drop out of line. He's got plenty of room behind him. Gets down to the inside. He slides a little bit, trying to lock the tires up and slow the car down to get to pit road speed. 4 tires of fuel for Greg Biffle in the 16 car. 90 laps to go. And he will short pit. No adjustments, 4 tires and fuel. I don't know why we're going down on the wedge. I didn't call for that. Like and subscribe again for more daily NASCAR content. We got 16 people watching. 14 likes. Our goal is 30 likes on the stream tonight. We have just less than 100 laps to go at the Texas road course. 90 to be exact. Dale Earnhardt Jr. leads this race, and he's trying to become the first points leader that is not Greg Biffle this season. Biffle will stay on the lead lap, or should stay on the lead lap. No, not quite. Dale Jr. is actually going to put him a lap down. Maybe not the fastest pit stop for Greg Biffle. Oh, he's getting sideways, getting back up onto the racetrack. He is the first car lap down at 17th, luckily. Still not where he would want to be. Matt Fogelson, welcome to the stream. Trivia question. Yeah, I haven't gotten to it because we had those couple cautions and those couple restarts right there. Now would be a good time. We got the most people watching the stream so far tonight. Tonight's trivia question in the Texas 500K is this, and it has to do with the Texas Motor Speedway. Who is the first driver to start on the pole and win a race in the NASCAR Cup Series at Texas? Their first race was in 1997, so they haven't really been racing at Texas all that long, about 25 years roughly. But, who is the first driver to win at Texas from the pole in the NASCAR Cup Series? And you guys will have until lap 150 before I give the answer to that question. If you guys don't get it in the chat, try not to Google it, of course, as well, if you can help it. See who can get the job done. Burton is not the answer. And it is not Mark Martin either. Or Kurt Busch. It's coming out rapid fire. Mr. You Bastard, I see you down in the chat as well. Thanks for tuning in. Terry Labonte holding up Dale Earnhardt Jr. right now, and this is going to give Biffle a big run on the front stretch. And a little bit of damage on Biffle's car might be slowing him up compared to Dale Jr., even though he's got a little bit fresher tires on the 8 right now. Another slow car coming up, though. Big charge to the inside. Biffle locks the brakes up, and he'll get by Dale Jr. that time. Oh, he slides into Casey Kane as well. Biffle back on the lead lap, so if we do get a caution, you won't have to restart at the rear of the field with the free pass. Ryan Blaney is not the answer. Blaney hasn't won a cup race at Texas. Jeff Gordon is not the answer. Kyle Busch is not the answer. And Dale Sr. is also not the answer. I see you down there, Tim Irvin. There it is, Mark Mars with the answer to tonight's trivia question. Casey Kane in the spring of 2006 was the first driver to win from the pole in Texas Motor Speedway history. Tonight's trivia question in the Texas 500K at the Texas Road Course. Mark DeMar's got it. Casey Kane. Spring race in 2006. There's actually only been a few drivers to win from the pole at Texas, which I'm surprised considering how much of a track position kind of track Texas has always been, for the most part. Except for like that, I'd probably say from the late 2000s into the repave, or at the end of 2016 was really the only time it was maybe a little easier to pass at Texas when they had multiple grooves. Surprised it hasn't happened as more often than what it has. Only 3 or 4 times. But Casey Kane was the first. We'll say, definitely doesn't feel like Dale Jr., or I should say Greg Biffle's pulling away from Dale Earnhardt Jr. at all. Which is concerning, considering the fact that Jr. is only 7 points behind him in the standings coming into the race today. Last 3 races for Greg Biffle, he's had finishes of 15th. Not in this exact order, but, well, actually in this exact order, it would have been 15th, 10th, 12th, and 9th for the last 4 finishes. So 2 top 10s in that stretch, but in the back half, Dale Jr. in the last 4 races has 3 runner-ups and a 3rd place finish. So that's why he has closed so much in the point standings the last 4 races. Or, yeah, Biffle's got 2 top 10s in the last 4, and then 2 finishes outside the top 10, obviously not good. But then Dale Earnhardt Jr. in that stretch has had 3 podiums. 4 podiums, rather. Still looking for his first win of the season. Can tonight be the night? Obviously, he's been close these last few races, almost kind of pulling a Ross Chastain with all the podiums and still looking for that first win of the year. But like Ross Chastain on a road course in Texas yesterday was able to do it, maybe Dale Jr. can do that on a Texas road course today. Dale Jr.'s first career NASCAR Cup Series win was in his rookie season at the Texas Motor Speedway, on the oval at least. This is a road course race, and obviously not his first win of his career because this is the 2004 season. or at least this game came out during the 2004 season. He is in the hunt for his first championship this year, though, and he's got a good shot at it. And this was statistically his best career season in NASCAR. He got a good shot at it. So you guys are still guessing the trivia question. No, Casey Kane was the answer to that trivia question. First driver to start on the pole and win at the Texas Motor Speedway. Bowman won at Richmond in the spring last year. He's had good cars this year. I thought he had one of the fastest cars yesterday, to be completely honest. Never led any laps. But I thought he had one of the 3 fastest cars. Him and AJ on the longer runs look like the 2 fastest cars in the field. Puts it back in on those 2 slow lap cars again. Terry Labonte will be the first one. And then Casey Kane will be the second. Of course, with Kevin Harvick and Tony Stewart blowing engines in this one, a chance for Kane and Labonte to gain some spots here. Tony Stewart came in 4th in the point standings into today's race, and then rookie Casey Kane came in 7th in the point standings into today's race. Kane is still running, but of course he's not going to have a good finish today. Obviously, Tony Stewart is just out of the race right now. He has not popped back in at all. Be interested to see if he can get that car back out there, much like Kane and Labonte were able to. At least Stewart is ahead of Harvick, no matter what, because he blew an engine a couple laps after the 29 car. Harvick was just outside the top 10 in points coming into this race, now with 3 straight engine failures. Lap 150 at the line, 151 for Dale Jr., a couple seconds behind Greg Biffle. Jack Canal supposed to be in the booth the next 2 weeks. He's done some Xfinity Series commentating before. He provides great information, but he's like, I don't know. He doesn't seem quite as like enthusiastic about it, like a Larry McReynolds or a Steve Letarte. As far as like crew chiefs that have been in the booth, even Andy Petrie. It's kind of monotone. I think he'll be alright. I kind of felt that way with Tony Stewart this weekend. Do you guys notice that at the finish of the COTA race? I went back and watched the replay of it last night of the actual broadcast because I was commentating the race yesterday, so I didn't really get to, like, you know, fully listen to it. But Tony Stewart, I don't know, it's just, like, he gets enthusiastic in the booth, but at weird times. Like, he doesn't, like, at the finish yesterday, it was all Clint Boyer and Mike Joy, I thought. And Tony was kind of, like, silent for the most part. Wasn't really talking much. Which is odd, because I honestly thought Tony Stewart would be kind of that guy in the booth. He's not. I'd say Jeff Gordon probably is more of that guy than Tony Stewart. Kind of, I really put Stewart in with, like, the Chad Canals category, where they're good commentators as far as being able to, you know, relay great information, but they're kind of monotone most of the race. They're not, you know, expressing. And that good of a finish yesterday, that crazy of a finish, I'm surprised he wasn't jumping out of his seat more. Can we have Dave Blaney in the booth for the Bristol Dirt Race? That'd be wild. I'm surprised they don't have Tony Stewart coming back for that race, or Jeff Gordon. If somebody with some sort of dirt experience, maybe Ryan Newman will pop up in the booth. USAC champ. You'd imagine they'd have to get some sort of a, maybe if Casey Kane's not, well, Casey Kane's run the Outlaw Series, so he probably doesn't have time to do it. They got to find some dirt racing guy that was in NASCAR to try to help provide information about it. Oh my gosh. That happened so fast. Greg Biffle chopped off the apron on entry into turns 1 and 2 and just slammed the outside wall off the exit of turn 2. That was a pretty good hit. No safer barrier on the walls in this game. I believe in the next game in NASCAR 06 they'll have safer barrier. Between Thunder 04 and then NASCAR 05, that is not the case, so the hit was probably even more violent than what it would have been in today's games. Probably because he was speechless at the end. Yeah, but when you're a commentator, you can't really be speechless. You can't just have, like, dead air. You also don't want to talk over each other at the same time, too, which could be hard in a situation like that. But I thought the commentary at the end of yesterday's race was pretty good otherwise. Between Boyer and Mike Joy. Honestly, I thought it was Mike Joy's best race he commentated yesterday, at least from the highlights of it. It almost seems like he's been, like, not himself this year, but that seemed like old Mike Joy yesterday. I did see that also. Logano's supposed to run the truck race. He won the cup race at Dirt Bristol. He might win that one. I'm honestly not fully sure Greg Biffle's going to cycle to the lead when Dale Jr. pits. Jr. will be on fresher tires as well. Biffle's made a few mistakes since coming out of the pit lane, and again, he's not seemingly pulling away from Dale Jr. all that much. The minute he does, he makes a mistake, and Jr. reels him back in a little bit more. Not within range to be able to put Biffle a lap down. Biffle kind of almost hoping for a caution. Try to get him this track position back. Problem is if they're within the window to make it to the end of the race, if we do get another yellow, then I think he's going to have to pit. I don't think he can just afford to stay out. He's either hoping if it stays green long enough before he has to pit the second time, or just get a caution really at any point. Preferably if he gets the lead. Kane holding up some cars on the outside. Paul Menard, one of the fantasy rookie drivers as well, was on the outside behind Menard. Biffle hasn't made any passes for positions around these cars at the tail of the field right now. They've all been a lap down. Donnie Schatz at Dirt Bristol. He hasn't really driven a cup car though. Isn't he still running full-time World of Outlaws too? I feel like they're probably racing that weekend, you'd have to assume. I guess he would have raced at Dirt Bristol last year for the World of Outlaws, so I mean, I guess that's not completely out of the question. Lonnie McKinney in the 177 right in front of Greg Biffle. Biffle got him just a little bit loose, enough to get underneath it quickly. Those two were rivals, and McKinney tried to take Biffle out early in the race on lap 1. Biffle wanted to make a quick pass on him because of it. And McKinney in the wall off the exit of turn 2. Biffle locking up the tires into turn 3, just really trying to drive away from him. Yeah, no, I figured you meant in the booth. Yeah, I haven't seen him on the entry list. I didn't even think that race was as close as what it is. He said the next 3 races were Richmond, Martinsville, Bristol. I was like, oh man, I'm going to Dirt Bristol in 2.5 weeks already? Roughly, leaving? It's crazy. I didn't realize there was only 3 races in between Atlanta and Bristol. I mean, I knew that at one point in time when I set out my travel schedule for this year, but kind of forgot about it. Like, all right, well, I guess I'm leaving for Dirt Bristol in a couple weeks. Sweet. Trying to loosen up that 105 car. That was one car that was racing Biffle really hard earlier in the race, even though he was a lap down. And Biffle trying to get underneath him right now. .105 protecting the bottom down into turn 3. Goes a little bit wide off the exit of the corner, though, and Biffle looking to cross him over. Wider angle in through turn 4. He's going to be on the outside into 5 and 6. Finishing corners of this racetrack. Biffle is there. 105 moves up right into the side of him, and into the wall goes the 105 car. Three short tracks in 3 weeks. Gotta love it, yeah. They've kind of done this a lot in recent years, though, with having Richmond, Martinsville, Bristol back to back to back. Last year it was Bristol first, and then they went to Martinsville, Richmond, Martinsville. And they've kind of like alternated the orders. It seems like almost every year that they run these 3 races in a row, but they have done this quite a bit in recent years. It makes sense too geographically. I mean, they're all within a couple hours of each other. Drive time. Easy on the teams. Biffle into the back of Ricky Craven. Actually launched Craven a little bit further out ahead of him. Craven a little loose. Biffle has a run on the front stretch. Hopefully not getting the back of the 32 car this time, and it might help him. Trying to widen that arc into turns 1 and 2. Biffle drives down onto that white line, hooks it beautifully, and now into the braking zone in turn 3. Oh, Craven gets into the side of the 16 that time. I'd say that was Greg Biffle's fault that time around, and Biffle will clear Craven. Yep, and then Talladega is right after that as well. Wade Zielinski, welcome to the stream. Don't mind dirt racing at Bristol. I'll read the rest of that comment as soon as we get by the slow car, Terry Labonte. Or make a major mistake. Bonnie holding up a car right behind him as well. Biffle's able to pass for position. Another slow car down on the apron of the racetrack right now. I think that's Casey Kane. So Kane, who was already really slow as it was, is going to be pitting that time by off of turn 6. Maybe going to get into some more green flag pit stops here shortly, as we're about in the window to make it to the end of the race. Not quite there yet, but we're getting close. Wasn't a fan of Dirt Bristol, essentially, is what you're saying? I prefer them to race on an actual dirt track if we could have 2 Concrete Bristol dates. A lot of that is just because Concrete Bristol is my favorite track in the Cup Series. And it never puts on a bad race. It's always action-packed, and I'm all for a dirt race if, you know, NASCAR and the Cup Series want to go there, but I mean, what was wrong with Eldora? And nothing was wrong with it. We just kind of got away from it. I mean, they could add temporary seating around that track and get at least 40,000 people in there, just like they would for Nashville Super Speedway last year. And I guarantee it would sell out. I guarantee it would sell out. If they could sell out the truck races there, they'll sell out a Cup race. So I don't see why they couldn't do that. So our first caution of the day came out in the middle of green flag pit stops the last go around, and then we had a caution just a couple laps after the restart with Bobby Labonte backed into the turn 3 wall. We'll contact down into turn 3 between the 172 and the 122. Biffle looking underneath Brendan Gaughan in the 77 car, beats him back to the gas. That's a pass for position. And Gaughan's coming into the pits anyway, so is the 172. Eldora was no problem for me. Yeah, I'm not just saying that because I'm from Ohio and that'd be a track within a couple hours of me either. A lot of fans seem to like it too. Look forward to that event. Case Kane came out of the pits, just held up the 122 car. Biffle got around him for 10th place. Will undercut on the 171. He'll get to the outside of him now. Mark Martin pulls into the pit lane this go around. That'll be another pass for position for Biffle. Will contact with the 171. That 171 car is a lap down. A little more contact on the front stretch between Biffle and 171. Dale Jr. still has not pitted. He's still leading laps. Yeah, Michigan's my hometown track, too. I'm from Northwest Ohio, so I only live like an hour and a half south of Michigan. That's the closest Cup track to me. Oh, 105 moved up right in front of Greg Biffle. Biffle got into the right rear corner panel because he had nowhere to go. Biffle driving on the apron in turn 6, trying to get underneath the 105. He's there. He's had troubles passing him all day long. It's about the third time now that Biffle has struggled to get around him, and that time is when he came out of the pit lane. Biffle up to 4th. The cycling of green flag pit stops. Still don't know if he's ahead of Dale Jr. enough to be able to cycle in front of him. The longer Jr. stays out, the better for Biffle, and a better chance he's going to have of being able to cycle in front of him. Think Cup would ever go to Knoxville? It depends on how the truck race goes this year, honestly. Which, it doesn't make any sense to me because the truck races at Eldora were wreckfest too. Just like Knoxville was, but they were complaining about Knoxville about it. I think it's just the drivers not being able to race clean with one another. That's just me personally. If you look at Racing Reference on the Truck Series races at Eldora, I don't think they had a race there where they had less than 9 cautions. It was 9 or more in all 6 races they had there. And they had 12 in the last 2 races they had there, which was the same amount of cautions they had in the Knoxville race. I'm just saying, it's not the track. But it is going to rely on the Truck Series having a decent race there if the Cup Series is ever going to go there. So they're capable of having it. That's just the nature of the Truck Series at really any track, with dirt races even more in particular. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is on pit road now. 51 laps to go this time by, and by the time Dale Jr. comes out of the pits, he'll have 51 to go. We'll see if Greg Biffle can cycle out in front of the 8 car. This is the moment of truth. It is going to be close. Junior pitted towards the end of pit road. And here comes Biffle. Michael Waltrip to the lead for the first time today. He has not pitted yet. And there's Dale Jr. on the apron in turns 1 and 2. Biffle will cycle out ahead of him. So that's why Biffle's short pitted. He's able to cycle in front of Dale Jr. Michael Waltrip sits in the top 10 in points, 9th coming into the day, knowing that both Tony Stewart and Casey Kane have problems that are ahead of him in points. This is good for Waltrip. He was in the top 10 earlier, but then he was outside the top 10 on that most recent restart. If he could stay out long enough to get 5 bonus points here, that'd be huge, but he has to lead back to the start-finish line to be able to do that, and I think he's coming into the pits this time, which means Greg Biffle will lead this lap at the line. So even though Waltrip was the last lead lap car to pit, he will not get any laps led in that transition. It'll be Greg Biffle who now leads at Texas once again. About the 3rd or 4th different time today, Biffle is out in front. 50 laps to go in this race. It's not the points format either. I don't think so. I think in the playoffs it maybe relies more on the points format. I don't think it does in the regular season. Especially this early in the year. So if we were to get a caution, now would be the time for Biffle before he has to make his final pit stop of the day. He's got about a 7/10 of a second lead over Junior. Junior a little bit fresher tires than Biffle. It's going to be interesting who's going to lead the most laps in today's race as well. It's got to be close between the 8 and the 16. And that is huge considering they're only 7 points apart from each other in the championship standings, running 1-2 into this race today. Biffle underneath his teammate Mark Martin, trying to get around him. Big loose moment for Biffle, but he does hang on to it really well. Drives out of it, and he passes 2 lap cars in turn 3, both Martin and Riggs. And he's got the 122 car right in front of him. Slow lap car coming up ahead as well. Terry Labonte in the 5 car, going to hold up the 172. Biffle gets around the 122 on the bottom. And the 172 will move down low. Remember Ryan Newman at Michigan? How off the pace he was there, kind of like what Labonte and Casey Kane have been today, but only he was cutting off the leaders every time. Or no, that was Daytona, my bad. It was at Daytona, not Michigan. I knew it was a fast track, though. And there's Casey Kane. Stacking up to 171, 172, and even race leader Greg Biffle. Biffle looking to the outside of the 9 of Kane. And he'll get around him there, clear him in the middle of turn 6. That's really stacking up Dale Jr. in that line of lap traffic even more than what it stacked up Biffle in the infield portion of the track, and Biffle will pull away now out to about a 1.5 race lead. Yeah, the current points format, in my opinion, is the best playoff format. If they're going to have the playoffs, keep it the way it is. Not only because I think it's the best, but also for consistency of points formats. I think this is the longest we've kept one single points format since we had the Winston Cup points format from the late 70s into 2003. 2017 to now. Every year before that, we were changing it literally every 3 seasons. Even if it was minor changes like from 06 to 07 or from about 2010. Well, no, 2010 2011 was a big change because there's only 1 point per position at that point. Whether it was gradual change or not, it was still a change. Oh, 71? I didn't realize it's that old. I was thinking it was the late 70s. I was thinking it was like Well, I guess the modern era was, what, 72 or 73? Maybe 71 was the first year of the modern era. That would probably make more sense if it was then. A 1.8, almost a 1.9 second lead at the start-finish line for Biffle over Dale Earnhardt Jr. 16 likes on the stream right now. Like and subscribe again for more daily NASCAR content. Our goal is 30 likes on the stream tonight. Getting down to the nitty-gritty of this one. Just 41 laps to go. This time by at the Texas Road Course at the Texas Motor Speedway. And Greg Biffle leads the way right now. Pretty close to most laps led between himself and second place driver Dale Earnhardt Jr. I think Biffle leads the way for now, but Jr. will cycle back into the lead once Biffle pits. It's another reason why Biffle is really hoping for that third caution of the race to come out sometime soon. Try to give himself another shot to potentially win this race. Because it's borderline of whether anybody else is going to have to pit or not. And honestly, for Dale Jr.'s sake, he was one of the last lead lap cars to pit. Him and Michael Waltrip. I think both the DEI cars are in good shape to make it to the end. Bump to the back of Scott Wimmer. Wimmer pulls up now in front of Biffle. Biffle trying to cross him over in turn 6. Get underneath him. Wimmer gets a little out of shape getting back from the transition of the flat to the banking. 40 to go. Now at the line. Biffle out in front. Wimmer cost him about 0.2 of a second that last lap to Dale Jr. Biffle sliding all the way through turn 3. Burning those tires up. Probably put on a better show than the Oval. Yeah, and I suggested that maybe they should have done that in 2017. But now that they have COTA on the schedule, I don't think you could have 2 road courses in Texas, especially on just a couple hours apart from each other. Guaranteed fans wouldn't want to go to both. I mean, most fans probably wouldn't go to both anyway, but there probably are that, you know, locals that do. Yeah, and I'm too young to remember any of the Portland road course races in the Busch Series back in the early 2000s and late 90s too, so I have no clue how the racing was there before. Road course racing in NASCAR, though, nowadays is, in my opinion, a lot better than what it was in the Gen 4 days. Even with the Gen 6 car, I thought it was a lot better. The car tomorrow was better than the Gen 4. Biffle to the outside of Terry Labonte in the slow car. Put Brennan Gaughan a lap down in that process. 144 of Jason Kennedy gets really loose getting back up onto the oval. Biffle did as well, though, and that's why the 77 of Gaughan was able to get a run to the outside of the Biff. And I think he's going to have him clear off the exit of turn 2, but Biffle will stay down low, trying to outbrake both him and Kennedy into turn 3, and does. Terry Labonte in the 9 car. Down towards the bottom. Biffle had to check up quite a bit in turns 4 and 5 to keep it off of Casey Kane. Barely gets down to the bottom in front of Kennedy into turn 6 and finally gets around Kane. And Casey cost him so much of that time that Dale Jr. is only about 0.9 of a second off the lead again. Only trucks did Portland. One Xfinity race there. Gotcha. I knew Xfinity did race there. I didn't realize it was only 1 year, though. Just going back to Sonoma and then, yeah, Mid-Ohio. Interested to see what they'll do at Mid-Ohio considering I'll be at that race. One of 4 truck races I'm going to be at this season. I was at Daytona already. I wasn't planning on going to the Dirt Bristol truck race, but changed my mind. I will be there. I think with it being a Saturday night, I'm going to be able to get there in time to be able to go to that. I should be able to get there in time. I want to get there for the heat races during the day, too, so I don't know what time I'm going to have to get out of here. I got about an 8-hour drive. If I leave 6 a.m. in the morning, I should get there in plenty of time. It's about 5, 6 o'clock in the morning is about the time I leave anyway to most tracks. I think Indy I left more towards 7, 7:30 just to get that extra hour, hour and a half of sleep, but that's only because I had a 4-hour drive. I knew I could get there by noon if I left at 7, 7:30. Back to about a 1-second lead again. Biffle trying to put Ronnie Reynolds another lap down in that 151 car. Dale Jr. is closing, and that's probably going to help Dale Jr. Biffle getting into the side of Reynolds. Reynolds getting out of shape off the transition on the flat to the banking, and Biffle will try to get underneath him again into turn 1. He did that last lap, but they made contact into turn 3. Biffle needs to try and clear him as he's side by side with Reynolds. A lot of side drafting going on there. Dale Jr.'s got a massive run into turn 3. Biffle hogs the bottom. Jr. got stuck behind Reynolds on the outside. That'll buy Biffle a little bit more time. Really desperately wants a caution here. He's thinking Dale Jr. can make it on fuel. Biffle still has to make his final stop. Cautions coming out really hurt the Biff. Made it a 4-stop race for him with when he pitted. Flipped the grass a little bit there and got sideways. Junior to the inside into turn 3 on Reynolds now. Outbreaks him and clears him off the exit of the corner. 31 laps to go this time by at the Texas Road Course. We have a potential battle for the lead between Greg Biffle and Dale Jr., the 2 points leaders who come in 7 points apart from each other. They both led laps today. Both have 5 bonus points right now. It'll be interesting to see how many laps Biffle can lead before he loses the lead to Jr., whether it's Jr. catching up and passing him or whether it's Biffle having to pit before a caution comes out. See who may get 10 bonus points. Junior is closing so much in turn 3 right now. Doesn't matter how hard Biffle drives it in. It seems like Dale Jr.'s been driving it in a lot better. $30 to go. Pretty even that last lap overall between Junior and Biffle, but again, off the exit of turn 2 and into turn 3, I think Junior's just getting enough draft, too, behind Biffle that he's able to really get a big run. Biffle going to protect the bottom this time. Junior still closes, though. He wasn't within range to make the pass on Biffle, so Biffle protecting the bottom just out of spite, really. Safety precaution. A little sideways getting off that transition from the flat to the banking, and Junior might have a run on him again. On the front stretch into turns 1 and 2. Biffle going to go a little bit wider that time in turn 3. Able to get back to the gas in a pretty good spot. He didn't have a bad corner despite a wider arc that time. He definitely wouldn't have done that if Dale Jr. was close enough to get underneath him. But Jr. was still quicker that last lap than Biffle by about 0.3 of a second. I think a lot of it was that bobble off that exit of that final corner in turn 6 back to the front stretch for Biffle. That cost him a lot of time to Junior that last lap. Now he's getting loose in the front stretch. And here comes Dale Jr. He's going to have another big run off the exit of turn 2. Biffle will protect the bottom. Dale Jr. is going to go to the outside. Into turn 3. Jr. is right there. And they're coming up on another slow car. A lot of clean air in front of Biffle has helped. It's going to be tough for Junior to get around him until they get into lap traffic because of it. Biffle undercuts the corner way too much. That was a big slide. And again, Junior is right there. 27 to go. There's Terry Labonte in the 5. He'll stay high. Dale Jr. checks up and gets to the bottom. Biffle pulls Jr. a little bit in turns 1 and 2. I'm sure they'll be catching Casey Kane next. Going to an NFL game. I'm bummed I didn't get to go to that Packers and Lions game last year like I planned. At least Rodgers is staying with them. That was the main reason I wanted to go too, was just because it could have been the last time I could have saw Rodgers in a Packers uniform, but luckily that's not the case. I was having car issues that weekend, and I didn't get it fixed in time like I was expected to, and I didn't have a vehicle to take up there. If we'll get to lock the brakes up at turn 3, Dale Jr. again on the attack. That's his best corner on the racetrack. 25 laps to go this time by, but Greg Biffle's going to have to pit within a few laps. I think that's part of why what Dale Jr.'s just... He's keeping the pressure on Biffle. If he makes a major mistake, he'll get around it, but he's not worried about really trying to pass him at this moment, knowing that Biffle's going to be pitting very soon, and Junior might be able to make it on fuel the rest of this race. Next Cup race of the custom schedule season is another fantasy road course. Second time we'll have back-to-back fantasy road courses on the schedule, and it will be at Speedway Boulevard later on this week. Tomorrow night's live stream will be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it will be at the High Banks at the Daytona International Speedway, the World Center of Racing, for a NASCAR Busch Series race, 100 laps under the lights in the Winn-Dixie 250. So a 100-lap Busch race. Oh, Dale Jr. bobbled off the exit of that final corner that time. That's going to buy Greg Biffle a little bit more breathing room on the front stretch. Breaks the draft on the bottom into turns 1 and 2 while Jr. runs that middle to upper lane. I don't think they could have afforded Hill, though. Kind of the same thing with the Packers and Devontae Adams. That's why they tried to franchise tag him, because they couldn't afford to restructure his contract, because Rodgers took all the money. Mahomes is getting paid, what, like $50 million a year? Can't afford all those all-stars on one team with the salary cap. It's not like baseball. And I think Greg Biffle's going to pit this time by at lap 204. He doesn't want to risk it another lap just in case. And the hope for Biffle is we get a late caution at some point in this one. He's protecting the bottom into turn 3, mainly because he has to pit this time by. As Dale Earnhardt Jr. closes on the pit, it's going to be Greg Biffle who will pit this time by. It's going to give Dale Earnhardt Jr. the race lead. Down to the bottom, it'll be 70 miles an hour on the pit stop for Biffle. And there we go. 4 tires and fuel. Actually, he's not going to take tires, and he's only going to go about a half a tank on fuel here, just trying to minimize the time on pit road. Buff out a little bit more scratches on the race car, so the Mr. Clean crew just going to go fuel only with just over 20 laps to go on this road course. Trying to maintain whatever kind of track position they can to the end here. On 9.5 seconds was all Biffle was in his pit box for, and he may still be in the top 10. He's in 8th right now. Cars still working their way on the outside lane. That was not a pass per position. So Greg Biffle is in 8th place. He's about 28 seconds off race leader Dale Jr. 21 laps to go at the line for Dale Jr. as well. Will we see that third caution? Turn 3 and turn 4 were the two accidents today. At least Biffle's still looking at a good finish, but again, even though he gets that top 10, he's finishing in the back half of the top 10 where Dale Jr. is in the top 3 once again in first. Jr. looking for that first win of the season. Closing in on the 5 of Labonte and then the 9 of Kane coming up soon as well. Biffle locks the tires up into turn 3, and these tires are going to be really worn to the end of the race, especially as hard as he's been pushing it when he was battling Dale Jr. there right before he got into the pits. Definitely going to be the longest tire stint of the race. Assuming he's just going to go to the end. 20 to go. I believe Dale Jarrett's going to be for position. For 7th. If Dale Jr. wins the race, he will take the points lead even if Biffle finishes 2nd. And leads the most laps. It'll be a 10-point difference. And not only be a 10-point difference in position, but Junior's only 7 points back coming in. So, first win of the year for Dale Jr. today will give him his first points lead of the season as well. It'll be the first race that Greg Biffle will not lead in points. He had a 137-point lead 4 races ago. Dale Jr.'s gained 130 points on him in that last 4 races with 3 second-place finishes and a 3rd. And again, 15th, 12th, 10th, and 9th were the finishes for Greg Biffle in that stretch. Yeah, Dale Jr. I think the fans will be alright with Dale Jr. taking the points lead. Junior Nation be going wild. They're like, wow, Junior's leading in the points halfway through the season. This might be his year. It could be. He's really turned it on the middle portion of the season. I mean, this is going to be 5 straight top 3s. Or in a catastrophe late for him here. We have seen a couple drivers blow an engine today. Remember, Tony Stewart was in 2nd, blew an engine. Harvick was on the lead lap, blew an engine. Casey Kane was in the top 10 at one point before he dropped a cylinder. He's still in the race, but he is noticeably slow and many, many laps down. I don't think everyone can make it on field to the end, but I know Dale Jr. and Michael Waltrip should be able to make it. Not sure if Biffle's ahead of Waltrip already or not. I would probably think that he actually is. Because he was only about 5 or 6 seconds behind him before Waltrip pit on his last stop. Oh, man, Biffle sideways on the front stretch. Not hanging on well with these old tires. Look how much ground he lost to Dale Jarrett. Getting really light on the front stretch. Man, locking up the tires again into turn 3. We have a restart with less than 10 laps to go. It'll be a single file restart. There will be no lap cars on the inside of the lead lap cars. Greg Biffle was not good on the restarts earlier in the race. He wasn't good off the initial start as well. Probably been a weak point for him. A lot better on the longer runs. At least it'd give him a chance to win the race. And perhaps a chance at gaining more positions. Great crossover move. Started high in the corner, finishing down low. Will make the pass on Jarrett for position. Contact up off of turn 6. a rough way to get around Jarrett, but he got around him and kept it off the wall, luckily. It was for 7th. Locking the tires up. I mean, it's time to push hard to the end now. If we stay green, Junior's going to take the points lead, so Biffle's going to try to keep that gap minimized as much as he can. Probably going to catch both Labonte and Kane twice if I had to guess. Dale Jr. is going to catch him twice at least. I don't know about Biffle or not. A lot of lap traffic between the 16 and the 8. There's no chance Biffle's going to catch Dale Jr. I think Ricky Rudd might be for position as well. He was at least in the top 10 earlier. No contact with the lap car, 184. Biffle got crowded. He had to lift off the exit of this final corner. Oh, man, but the car in front of him got sideways of Earl Hall as well. And he got into the back of him. Both cars got out of shape off of turn 6. Stacking Biffle up. Well, there's Terry Labonte already again. Drove to the outside of the 184, made the pass on him. Now he'll follow Mike Murphy. Inside in turn 6, scrapes by Labonte. "11 laps to go at the Texas Motor Speedway road course." Oh, Biffle out of shape. That's the problem with taking fuel only, especially on a road course. He has been really, really loose these last few laps. And he is just holding on to his car for dear life. It's going to save him a few positions, just completely doors Mike Murphy up out of the way. Trying to get back down to the bottom before he got to Casey Kane. He didn't want to get stuck behind him. Ten to go. Yeah, it's got to be close in laps led between Dale Jr. and Greg Biffle as well, assuming Jr. leads to the end. He's got a big lead over second place. Paul Menard is holding up Ricky Rudd as well. Rudd finally got around Craven. Craven was holding him up pretty good. By the way, Biffle's lost time to Dale Jr. since coming out of the pits as well. So Jr.'s definitely faster than Biffle on the track right now. Biffle's at least fast enough. Maybe he's got a top 5 in him yet. Wherever 5th place is. I know Rudd's probably for 6th. Maybe a few more points. Rudd's on the outside of Craven. Craven just crossed Rudd back over. He cleared him. Rudd back down to the bottom. Biffle's got a major run. Ricky's being held up quite a bit by Ricky. And locking the brakes up into turn 3 to make the clean pass on both Craven and Rudd. The Ricky and Ricky show. Texas Motor Speedway road course. Craven a lap down though, and Rudd on the lead lap. Biffle on the inside of Paul Menard in the 33. Contact. Biffle almost lost it. And Rudd's got a big run because of Biffle getting out of shape and getting into Menard. So this battle for 6th place is on once again. Curb really shot Biffle to the left. Been turn 4 and 5. Only 2 left-handers on the racetrack. It's like he hit the curb and it just wheel hopped the rear tires and kept turning to the left for him. He's pulling back away from Rudd again. We'll see if he can get around Menard quickly this time. There's another car up ahead. Well, 6.5 laps still to go. Not sure if that is a lead lap car or not. A couple cars actually still ahead. And again, he should catch Labonte and Kane one more time as well, so maybe they hold up some of the other leaders. Dale Jr.'s got a lot of lap traffic coming up in front of him. He's got a pretty big lead. Again, Biffle Menard made contact for the second straight lap off the exit of turn 6 and back onto the front stretch. Biffle's got to be careful not to wreck the car here this late in the race as well. He's got a good solid day. Sometimes you just got to know when to salvage a good day, like he has had, where he's led a lot of laps in this race, and he at least is in 6. He's still got a top 10 and a potential top 5. That is why he's still racing hard, is to try and see if he can catch anybody else for position. 5 laps to go currently for Dale Jr. And remember, no guaranteed green-white checker finish either. Caution comes out late enough in the race would end under the yellow. 5 laps left. I think Biffle would almost rather it stay green at this point. It's probably a better shot at gaining one more spot. We haven't had a race end under the caution flag this season. I don't think we have in the Busch Series either. With a tank of gas left. Plenty to make it 4 more laps. I think Lonnie McKinney is the next lap car in front of Biffle. Not a rival anymore. At least they're neutral now. Biffle still wants to get around him, though. And the 105 car would be the next car in front of McKinney. Biffle squeezes to the inside of McKinney. Now he's on the outside, but it'll clear him in the middle of turn 6. Back down to the bottom. Had a rough time trying to pass this 105 car a few times today as well. Oh yeah, you're right. Talladega Road Course did end under a caution. You're right, you're right. That is the only race that's ended under the yellow. I completely forgot about that. We only had 1 green flag lap the entire race. I don't know how I could forget about it. Oh, contact! 105 in the 16. Nearly 3 wide in the middle of turn 6 with the lap cars up ahead as well. I think they're closing in on Terry Labonte, who's stacking the field up here. Oh, and Petty gets sideways just like Biffle did off the exit of turn 6. 2 laps to go. Petty tried to get back down to the bottom in front of Biffle, but Biffle was able to beat him there, and Petty stuck behind Terry Labonte still. Finally gets to the inside of the middle of turns 1 and 2. For about 26 seconds off the race lead still, 153. Ryan Newman, I believe, is in 5th. He is the second car ahead of Biffle right now, and he's got Casey Kane right in front of him, holding him up into turn 6. So now is the time to go, although Newman did get around Kane pretty easily on the outside. He held him up very briefly. Biffle needs to get around Casey Kane quickly. He gets around the 153 quickly. Kane almost squeezed Biffle. 153 in the 16 split. Kane 3 wide, and Kane was in the middle. It's the final lap of the race. And Biffle's quite a ways yet behind Ryan Newman. He's going to send it into turn 3. Newman's got the 122 car in front of him. Biffle slides the tires as he gets back to the gas. Checkered flag in the air. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has won at the Texas Road Course. His first win of the season, and he will take over the points lead for the first time this year as well. And Biffle was maybe a lap shy of being able to get around Ryan Newman to get a top 5. Newman held behind that 122 car, but Biffle is not quite going to get to him. A 6th place finish for the points leader today, and he will lose that points lead for the first time this season. Take a look at the finishing order. Dale Jr. wins by 17 seconds in this race. That was definitely earned. Dale Earnhardt Jr., though, with the win. Matt Kenseth finishes second. Bobby Labonte third. Jeff Gordon fourth. Ryan Newman rounds out the top five. Greg Biffle sixth. Ricky Rudd seventh. Dale Jarrett eighth. Elliott Sadler ninth. And Michael Waltrip, another top 10 on a road course this year. Another top 10 for Elliott Sadler and Dale Jarrett. Those Robert Yates Racing Fords have done very well this year also. 75 laps led today for Dale Jr., and that's only 5 bonus points. We'll see how many Biffle led. Biffle led 84 laps, and that was enough to lead the most. So Greg Biffle did lead the most laps by just 9 laps over Dale Jr. Knew it was going to be close. So at least that strategy for Biffle was able to get him the most laps led. But Dale Jr.'s was the one that won the race today. A good points day for Biffle, leading the most laps and finishing 6th, but still a good points day. This juncture of the year, I mean, we need top 5s. It's insane how good Dale Jr. has been. Let me read off Dale Jr.'s stats for you guys, because I've been keeping track for everybody that's had top 5s and top 10s this year. And let me just tell you how good Dale Jr. has been this season. We'll actually take a look at the DNFs first before I forget. Forgot the last couple streams. And then also, as far as cars on the lead lap, we had 11 drivers finish on the lead lap today. Only 2 cautions for 6 caution laps. Race time at 2 hours and 41 minutes. And a lot of engine failures in today's race. I didn't realize we had this many. Robbie Gordon, Casey Mears, Brian Vickers, Kevin Harvick we saw blow an engine. Jimmy Johnson blew an engine. Joe Nemechek blew an engine. Tony Stewart blew an engine. Kurt Busch blew an engine. Terry Labonte finished the race, but he was a lot of laps down. Rusty Walsh blew an engine after starting second. He led 50 laps today. Casey Kane had a cylinder drop, but he still finished the race a lot of laps down. And then Jeff Burton blew an engine. Sterling Marlin blew an engine. My goodness. That was a lot. We only had 30 cars. Well, I guess 32 finished the race because 2 of them came back out. But 13 cars had some sort of an engine issue and 11 DNFs. Told you guys it was going to be a wild card race today, but I didn't think it was going to be that many wrecks. Or blown engines, I guess there was only 2 wrecks. Tough break for Johnson. That's like his, I think that's back-to-back DNFs for him as well. So he's got 2 straight DNFs, and Kevin Harvick's got 3 straight. Brian Vickers had an engine failure, like I mentioned. Terry Labonte was down a cylinder, so I think Jeff Gordon was the only Hendrick car that didn't have any sort of an engine issue today. Lucky for him. I don't think he had a good finish, though. I think he was outside the top 10. No, never mind. He did get a top 10. Yeah, he finished 4th. My bad. Man, oh man, oh man. Yeah, we'll take a look at that points lead. Let me read off Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s stats for you guys this season, though. We'll get to see how many poles he has very shortly because this game keeps track of that at least. So Dale Jr. now has 1 win on the season. With his 1 and only win, he is also the points leader. 14 top 5s after today, 14 top 10. So every time he's finished in the top 10, he's finished in the top 5. That's through 17 races. Dale Jr. has finished in the top 5 all but 3 races this season. To put it in comparison with my stats, I have 13 top 10s, which is only 1 less top 10 than Dale Jr., but he's finishing in the top 5 every time. We have 11 top 5s on the season. So Dale Jr.'s got 3 more top 5s than us, and we do have 7 more wins than Dale Jr., 8-1, and that's why it's close in the points. But I think the main thing is the finishes outside the top 10. We have 2 DNFs. And I think Dale Jr. is DNF'd once this year instead of twice, and that is why he is leading in the point standings as of right now. Yeah, the crowd goes wild as Earnhardt Jr. wins. Yep, Junior Nation is proud that Dale Jr. gets his first win of the season. And we'll take a look at those point standings right here, right now. 18 points is the difference between Dale Jr. and Greg Biffle after this race today. Jeff Gordon closing in on that points battle as well. He's 270 back. He had another top 5 today. But it's pretty much a 2-horse race still, at least for now. But we still have a couple more fantasy road course races left this year. I think we have 3 road course races total and then 2 fantasy road course races. We have Speedway Boulevard, Dockside. 4 road courses left, 3 fantasy road courses because we have Speedway Boulevard, Dockside, Old Spice Speedway, and Watkins Glen yet on the schedule. So you'll have those wild card races. We still have 2 more races at Talladega, including the championship race at Talladega. And we have 1 more race at Daytona under the lights. And you guys know that Daytona has not been my track for the Cup Series on the EA Sports video games. So the odds are still going to be stacked against us. We're in the thick of the hardest part of the schedule right now. We got the Coke 600 coming up soon. That's going to be a war of attrition. So Old Spice Speedway is going to be a war of attrition too. That's 333 laps on a road course. That's going to be just insane. That race is going to take like 5 hours. I'm going to be exhausted. But yeah, we've got a very tough schedule coming up. And obviously, Dale Jr. is the hottest driver as of right now. Him, Gordon, and Stewart, really, even though Stewart DNF'd with an engine failure today. Stewart's won 2 of the last 4. I think Gordon's won 3 of the last 7 or something like that. Now Dale Jr.'s got 5 straight podium finishes, including a win today. And Greg Biffle, although he's got 3 top 10s in the last 5 races, it's been a little while since he's gone to victory lane. Still looking for that 10th win of his career. He's been stuck at 9 for a while now. 84 laps led is now going to give us, let's see here, just over 1,700 laps led this year. 1,723 laps led. I don't know what the average finish is because I haven't kept track the last couple of races. I'll get that eventually. But congrats to Dale Earnhardt Jr. getting his first Cup win of the season. He did have a win already in the Busch Series, but now he has one on the Cup side. And yes, Speedway Boulevard will be the next race. 133 laps, I do believe. Let me check just to make sure. Yep, 133 laps. It's a 3-mile road course under the lights in Florida. We'll see. We'll see. Like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. I will see you guys tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It will be NASCAR Chase for the Cup 2005 once again, and it will be another custom scheduled season race, but it will be on the Busch Series side. It's been a little bit since our last Busch Series race, so we'll have a couple over the next couple nights. Tomorrow night, though, at Daytona, 100 laps under the lights, 250 miles for the Winn-Dixie 250. Hope to see you guys there. Thank you for watching. As always, like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content on the road to 2,000 subs, on the road to 10,000 subs in the calendar year of 2022, and on to the road to becoming a NASCAR commentator down the road. Appreciate all of the support you guys give me on a daily basis, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night at Daytona.